Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, co-founder of democracyatwork.info, the author of numerous books, most recently, The Sickness is the System, When Capitalism Fails to Save Us from Pandemics or Itself. Democracyatwork.info, Prof. Wolff on Twitter, Democracy at WRK on Twitter as well. Professor Wolff, welcome back to the program. It's so glad to have you with us again.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Everything I know about the gold standard is this. Or at least what I think I know about the gold standard. There's all these, I have to read right-wing message boards as part of my job, and there's like all this talk about, oh, inflation, oh my God, this wouldn't have happened if we were still on the gold standard. We need to go back to the gold standard, quack, quack, quack. My understanding is that with the gold standard, the amount of money that you can issue is equal to the amount of gold you have. And if your economy grows, you have to get more gold to keep your dollar from increasing in value, deflating essentially. And that's not always, actually in the 70s, that became unviable. Am I understanding that correctly? Can you explain to us what the gold standard is, how it worked, and why we got rid of it?
Sure. First of all, though, a comment on those right-wing boards. They have an agenda, and basically whatever happens in the economy, they will link it back to their agenda and tell you why if it's bad, it's because you didn't do what they advocate, and why it's good, it's because you did what they advocate. It becomes, after a while, a kind of absurd repetition of their agenda. But let's go with the gold standard. It has been around for centuries. That is, for many, many, many centuries, human beings did not trust governments or anybody else to print money or to manufacture money, whether it took the form of paper or coins, didn't really matter, because the fear was that unscrupulous politicians and or criminals, or if they might have been the same people, they would abuse their control over this vital thing called money, without which at least modern capitalism, but even earlier systems, couldn't have functioned. So there was a perpetual desire to have something that would be beyond the control of the evil politicians or the corruptors. And so gold was something like that. I mean, there's only a certain amount of it in the world. At least you can't find it readily. The easy part of getting it out has been accomplished. Now it's harder and harder, so it'll slow down, it'll be minimal. But then you discover that all kinds of developments in the world economy, and this has happened repeatedly, mean, as you just gave an example, that the gold doesn't do the job. You need money to do a whole lot of things in a capitalist economy, and so you need more flexibility. Long and the short of it, you go off what's called the gold standard. If you've been using gold as the basis of your money, you declare you won't anymore. Ironically, since it was a right-wing board that you read, I need to remind Americans that the last president who took us off the gold standard was a conservative Republican named Richard Nixon, who did that in August of 1971. At the end of World War II, after the first half of the 20th century gave us 2 world wars and a level of chaotic global insecurity and volatility, we went on the gold standard at the end of World War II with the express commitment that it be a stabilizing, permanent, none of which it could do. Bottom line, the capitalist economy is constantly changing. It has all kinds of needs, and those needs are imperfectly met by all the different instruments it has so far developed. It is therefore kind of childish to imagine that if we have a problem, if only we go to gold, is about as sensible as if only we leave gold. It's never been the problem. It's never been the solution. And it shouldn't be debated that way now. We have serious economic problems. We can handle them with a gold standard, and that will be a certain set of problems. We can handle them with paper money the way we are doing now, and that will give you a different set of problems. The idea that the problems are uniquely connected to the one or the other, That's just when someone has an agenda, they want you to do something, they want to make a claim of some kind or another. The Federal Reserve manages the money supply of our country, just as central banks do in every other major country. They do the best job they can to provide a quantity of money suitable for running capitalist economies. They can't overcome the problems of capitalist economies because that's not within the scope of their activity, and it's not available to them in the first place. If you don't want an unstable economy, one that gives you a depression virtually in 2020 and 2021, and now slaps you in the face with an inflation to which we're going to give now higher interest rates, threatening a recession, this crazy economic bouncing around, if that bothers you, and I sure hope it does, your solution is not going from one kind of money to another. Your solution is to deal with the underlying forces that build instability into the economic system.
Which is to heavily regulate capitalism or introduce non-capitalism systems like
Right.
Worker co-ops and things like that.
Exactly. It's always amazing to me that Americans who are interested in systemic analysis, who believe in systems approaches in a whole lot of other realms, when it comes to the economic system, suddenly we don't want to ask questions about the system and system change and system alternatives. We want some quick little detail fix, gold, financial currency or not. There were those who believed, of course not anymore, that cryptocurrency, because it would be linked to the blockchain, wouldn't be like gold on the one hand, wouldn't be like paper money from the government on the other, and therefore would liberate us. It's now lost more value than the stock market or money or anything else combined. And it's one more sad lesson that these are systemic problems, not fixed by some gimmick about one little corner of the economy.
Totally get it. So, if the economy grew beyond our money supply in August of '71, and Nixon said, okay, that's enough, we're not going to have to keep buying gold and sticking it in Fort Knox to back up our currency. Why do we still have gold in Fort Knox? Why do I read articles in the Financial Times about how the European Central Bank just acquired another 100 million tons of gold from Russia or whatever? Why are central banks around the world holding literally, $1 trillion or more worth of gold?
The answer is the old adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket. In other words, they know what I said. They know that any system is liable to the instabilities, the injustices, the wars, etc., of capitalism's history from the beginning. They don't know which way the wind will blow, whether it will be good to have your reserves for your own currency, say, for example, the Bank of France, to reserve behind the euro in your country, you hold dollars, or you hold now Chinese currency, or you hold a basket of currency, or you hold all of that with gold, or you hold all of that with gold and even some cryptocurrency, which some of them began to do. The wisdom they have is that they can't put all of their bets on one player. It's just too uncertain. It's just too dangerous. So they're just diversifying. And that means holding a portion in gold.
That's fascinating. Professor Richard Wolff, thank you so much for dropping by and for all the education you've given us all these years. Thank you.